Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are Nate Basinger and Forrest Husingfeld from the Swampland Jewels. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, nice to have you both here. For those for those watching the video, Forrest is extra cool wearing his sunglasses.
That's right.
The sunglasses in the house today. So you're not getting the full experience on the radio, but we'll try and make up for that. Good to have you both here. Swampland Jewels, of course, it came out of Diplomats of Solid Sound, right? Or had it always been its own thing?
It's its own thing, but at present, there's a lot of shared members of the band. What do you expect? It's a small town.
Yeah. You find people you like playing with, and you find different ways, right?
And you find the band members of Diplomats that can have a high tolerance to accordion, and
yes.
And then you weed out those that do not. So
High tolerance for accordion is required.
only the strong have survived and made it to this point.
Nate, then, okay, so accordion, obviously a big part of this band. What was the genesis of Swampland Jewels?
We started towards the tail end of the pandemic when I moved back to the area after living in Texas for like a decade or more. And we just wanted to start getting together and play some songs. And it just happened that the songs that we played were Gulf Coast oldies and blues and whatnot. And I was like, I think I'll play a little accordion. And one thing led to another. And then we got asked to play a show and like a crawfish boil. And because we have an accordion, one thing led to another. And we were like, hey, I think we can make a go of this and make this a kind of a cool project, a kind of a cool band. And last year, what's really cool is that we were actually starting to get away from being just thought of as that novelty band that plays crawfish boils and Mardi Gras. And now people are fans and people who book us are like, yeah, you guys are just like a good band that happens to have a guy fronting it on accordion. So that's cool that we've transitioned more into that.
So the two of you, who else is in the band?
Marty Christensen is on bass, Eddie McKinley is on tenor saxophone, and Randall Davis is on guitar.
And you've got a gig coming up for Fat Tuesday, Wildwood.
That's right. Tuesday, March 4th, we'll be at Wildwood in Iowa City with the Dandelion Stompers, and I think this is the third year that we've done this lineup, and it's always packed. We've always got a lot of dancers in the house, and it's a weeknight, it's a school night, but we've always managed to throw a decent, respectable Mardi Gras party that gets a little rowdy, perhaps not so respectable at certain moments.
Sometimes certain people take their shirts off and walk around the crowd playing washboard.
There's a fair amount of video of me walking around the crowd. I'm just going to fess up right now. You can't hide from things on social media anymore.
That's right. There are no secrets anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'll say if we break a certain number, maybe 150 people through the door, I will take my shirt off. Although now this is probably convincing people not to come.
Okay, and how many to take your pants off?
Well, yeah, we're gonna need to
to
sell out for that to happen. No, but I will be covered in a washboard though, so you're just gonna see some arm.
The washboard and the accordion are particularly critical to this kind of music. You mentioned, of course, blues is familiar to us, but the Gulf Coast has it has a sound all its own.
It does. You have Louisiana in there. You've got obviously New Orleans, but it also stretches to Texas. So it's a wide piece of real estate. So you have the things that have like your Cajun and your Zydeco, which is like your French kind of Louisiana stuff. But you also have Spanish-speaking stuff as you get closer to the Mexican border. Also, there's a lot of accordion music, but also there's just like a lot of rock and roll. Look at all the records that were made in New Orleans over the years, and the tons of great blues artists that come from Louisiana and West Texas. You've got like Guitar Junior, you've got Slim Harpo, you've got Lazy Lester. There's just like a ton of these great songwriters and producers, and we play a lot of those they're kind of like oldies. They're just classic songs. A lot of them are songs that every band in Austin has to play, and I lived in Austin for 10 years, so I learned all those songs then, and so now we throw them into the mix and we play them in some of our sets too. So.
Did you have an affinity for this sound before you moved to Texas?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of this type of music. I've always been, even as a kid, if there was a blues record, Lonnie Brooks is a great example of someone that your listeners would be familiar with in this area. Before he moved to Chicago and started going by his Lonnie Brooks name, he was Guitar Junior in the Gulf Coast region. He was like a teenage guitar player that had like rock and roll hits. And I would get a compilation CD and be like, oh, it's Lonnie Brooks. I was like, what is this song? Roll, roll. What is this? What is this? The Crawl. What are these songs? This doesn't sound like the Chicago blues of the 1990s, the alligator stuff, which is also really great. But I was like, what are these tunes? So I was always really interested into that kind of music, even as a kid. And then also I got into Louisiana music because as a kid, a good friend of mine, Aaron Oster, his father, Harry Oster, is this known folklorist. And we had a band, Aaron and I had our first band together when I was in high school called Love Slinky, which is not on the internet. Sorry to say, so you can't find that because it predates the internet. But we had a band together, and we had access to all of Harry's recording. It was just like, hey, Nate, what do you think about maybe we play some Zydeco or some Cajun? And Harry sold me my first and second accordion because he sold instruments, and just ran with it. So I've always had an affinity for that region and that kind of music.
Forrest, as a percussionist, and of course we mentioned the washboard, but how would you differentiate this kind of sound from the other things that you play? And Diplomats, your straight ahead jazz and blues gigs, everything you do.
Yeah, a lot of the rhythms are a lot more interesting. They're Caribbean influenced, so instead of just having a backbeat, boom, ga, boom, boom, ga, it might be boom, ga, boom, ga, boom, ga. So it's a little bit funkier actually than a lot of the stuff that I get to play elsewhere. Yeah, so I would just say it's more fun.
Yeah. In KCCK terms, Bob DeForest does a feature during the Saturday Blues called the Crawfish Circuit, which is all the bands from Texas and Louisiana. Yeah. So if you dig that and you haven't heard Swampland Jewels yet, you probably have been asleep. But yeah, make sure that now you know where to go to find that kind of music. What else does 2025 bring? Before we started the tape, you said that you're going to go in the studio maybe and record some songs.
Yeah, so in April it'll be a year since we put out our debut record, and so we've been working on new material. Nate's probably got 50 to 60 new songs every time we get together. It seems not that much, but we do have a lot of new material that we're looking forward to recording, and we're working on the new stuff this spring. We've also got shows booked in Cedar Rapids and Iowa City and Maquoketa in the Quad Cities and Amana. Haven't announced any of these yet, but this summer and fall we will be making the rounds again, and we'll probably be going out of state quite a bit as well. So a lot coming down the pipeline.
What, aside from this area of Iowa, what are you said out of the state, what are your best markets? Where do they like the Swampland Jewels?
We played in Chicago for the first time in August, I think, at Pravdafest, which is our label publisher, and that was a lot of fun. And so hopefully we'll get back there. Can't divulge too much information at this point. Yeah. But yeah, so far we've really stuck within a 4-hour radius of Iowa City, and I think we're ready to start making some random appearances elsewhere. Will
the album be all originals, or will you go back and play some of those Gulf Coast oldies in there too?
I think it will be mostly originals. Hopefully all originals. The last record we did a lot of covers on, and since we're the record label, when it came to putting the record out, it was lot more.
Got to pay those rights.
It was
fees.
A lot more expensive in 24 or whatever when we put the record out than it was last time I put out a record with covers on it to get the licensing for that. I think it'll be all original system.
As someone who just had to clear rights for 21 jazz band tunes for our Corridor Jazz Project album, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
It's Fat Tuesday, March 4th, Tuesday, the Wildwood Saloon and Barbecue in Iowa City. Double bill, Swampland Jewels, and the Dandelion Stompers for the best Mardi Gras party around. I'm sure tickets are available in advance at the Wildwood website, which is wildwoodsaloon.com, and get them early because you don't want to take a chance on getting shut out at the door, right? Because now that we've heard that Forrest is going to strip down if the event sells out, I think we can guarantee a sellout. Yeah.
That's right, and I want to make sure that I'm properly manicured, so we need a proper head count in advance.
When the album, as you get nearer the album, you got more gigs, make sure we know about them, and otherwise, happy Fat Tuesday, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
You can hear The Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.